All right, here we are. Let's talk. Season
Yeah,
33. It's over. That's crazy, right? This is a long
season
season.
33
It's a
was
long
pretty
season.
sweet, I gotta say. Like it's continued the tradition of since season 29, each season has been pretty different to the preceding one. We had Boris Glimt's copy over as one of the best decks, but otherwise it changed quite a bit. So long may that tradition continue. Looks like it's going to continue in season 34.
Yeah, I had such a weird I guess we just talk about our experience with season three. I had a weird experience because I didn't really play a lot and I committed to like a single deck. I think I said this in the very beginning of the season where like I'm gonna play one deck, and that deck just happened to be um the field deck, which I did like. I thought that was like there's like some vast weaknesses. Basically, price of progress was and control at first is a
Hmm.
vast weakness, but
Hmm.
I really actually the whole plan of the season for me was to kind of like build up to like a tournament win, and then or then maybe like play the 500, but then like work got in the way. Like someone else needed a day off on that Saturday, and I had to work for them, so they really like foiled my plan. It was really bad, so I never really got like the payoff of like trying to win something because I came in second twice. But like I remember like
Um,
the 2 seconds I got were like brutal blowouts in a weird way. So like I remember I played against it was like the Teamer Glimpse version, and
mm,
I with the game three, and they were on the play, and they just played three lands, and they're pausing. I'm like, oh, they're gonna go for it, and they just like slam a Charlotte's Agent, and they like just get every roll correct, and I was like, so like, what is going on? And I was like, that was the last video I think I made. I was like, what is happening? I cannot believe I lost it because that's such a hard matchup too. Like the fact that
yeah, I mean,
I 2-0'd them in the Swiss in the most hilarious way. I just thought we played like double Nevermore on them. Like game one was like a non-game. I don't know what happened. Their deck didn't function. And then game two, it's like I I I Nevermore for something, and I never know if the other thing. And I was like, okay, I cannot lose this because they did not have
yeah,
enchantment removal. But it was like, but for me, like this season, I don't know. Playing one deck wasn't like really fun. I guess like looking back, I think like building the deck was really fun. Like trying to figure out the matchups, like learning. Oh, I can play Revenge Pack to play this. It'd be awesome. But then like playing just one deck wasn't really enjoyable. So and that's a
I mean, I
I
think
think I
if you had built from there into like the dominating deck and won the 500, it would have been the sweetest story. But as you kind of instead discovered there are certain unwinnable matchups and that your matchups are pretty polarized, it was maybe less
well, it's
of
more
a
of like
serious conclusion.
I think I've like nerfed my experience of Penny Dreadful, where it's like the format's so vast and you can try so many fun things and it's like really cheap to
Yeah,
do. So I think like that kind of soured my experience where it's like, man, everyone's like doing cool things. Like I liked your deck a lot, honestly. The blue white temple, not all the cards, but I like the idea of it. I was like, oh, I could like improve on this. Like I tried to give you
mm,
advice on it. It's like that's me like inserting myself like you should play condemns, play condemn, play condemn, play condemn.
I
I'm like, please play condemn. Like
yeah.
I would have just done that by myself. I was like, no, it's like trying to involve
Well,
myself in other
I
people's
did
decks.
eventually add the condemns, immediately top eighted the 500 and have an
You're welcome.
88% win rate since I added them.
You're welcome. Yeah, you had a
But
good run. That was a pretty good run. I think the mods had
yeah,
a
it was
really good
good. It was
run.
good. The match I lost, Purify the Graves that I cut from the sidewalk because Dat Rubino said there's no graveyard decks in the format. It would
They'll
have
never
helped. And
they'll never
also,
listen to General.
if I just played correctly, uh,
That
that
was a
would
tough
have.
matchup. Yeah, that was like I commented on your video and
Yeah, I mean, they had two cards in library in game two. There was many ways I could have won that game anyway.
yeah.
You know, live and learn. I got a bunch of luck. Played Eternal Paradox in round two, and he assembled Mine and Bombardment by tapping out. And I was like, oh, I just lose this, and then I untapped and drew Celestial Purge. So, you know,
That's all
I
you need.
had
It's
my
like
share of luck as well
yeah.
as you know, not getting the rub of the green or not playing perfectly in the quarterfinal. So yeah, I also totally misplayed against clerics, not realizing what aura does. But anyway, it was a good 500, and in general, that deck was a fun experience. You know, I played Spirit Dancer, and I played field decks, and I even played Blue White Control, and I played Scales. And I think all of those decks, maybe not Blue White Control, but all of those decks lost to Glimpse and I just said, look, if Glimpse and Blue White Control are the best decks in the format, let's figure this out. And I started off on a kind of taxes build with Pippin to protect my lock pieces, but there's no meddling mage, so I gave up that and switched to kind of flashy things. And then I was just trying for ages to find like good one drops, and trying Terramander, but that required playing a lot of bad spells, and trying Flourishing Fox, but that required playing a lot of bad cycling cards. And in the end, I put in Novice Inspector, which is really not, a creature in the traditional sense, although it does work with Luminarch Aspirant, so you can put the counters on it and not make spot removal on the Luminarch Aspirant just the answer to all their problems. So it is kind of a creature. And then from that point on, the deck was pretty good. I did have a little crisis of faith just before the 500 after I went 235001, which I don't know is sort of weird mixed results. And so I did register, I only went 2-2 in a tournament. So I did register M-Dog Soldiers, but I immediately queued into the mirror, well, Boros humans, and lost and went 2-2 and thought, no, I'll go back on my deck. And that worked out pretty well for the 500. And I am 11-1 since the 500 after going 6-2 in the 500. So I think it did get it to a pretty good spot, although it definitely took about, how many different decks did I register? 22 versions of the deck. So yeah, it was fun. Spirit Dancer was fun too, but just really rubbish against Wrath of God and a couple other things. And the same with Hardened Scales, just really, really powerful and good. But if they Wrath you or Glimpse you, then you die. So Glimpse was a real forcing function for me, and Blue White Control to a lesser extent this
Well, I mean,
season.
like in the Spirit Dancer deck, I mean, I think you solve the problem in your blue white deck, which is like I'll just play 4 Boromir. Why don't you just like jam Boromir into the Spirit Dancer decks, or that's I don't know the scales like are like green white or just green. I don't know, but
Yeah, I mean the Spirit Dancer deck I was playing was a Lurrus deck, and the same with Scales, but they certainly could have been in the board or even in the main. There was an option. I don't know.
yeah, you could have just like boarded them in and then boarded the Loris or something. I don't think that would
Yeah,
be a big
yeah,
deal.
yeah,
Because like
yeah,
Luris is like not like Luris is great to have, but it's like you don't like need it if like
yeah,
Glimpse is like your problem.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I found, I mean, I did eventually develop a completely lopsided Glimpse matchup, but I really want, you know, 7 counter spells and the Boromirs. I mean, yeah, obviously Boromir is the very best thing, but if you just have a Boromir and they just Spite Bellows it, then you do still lose. So I don't know. I liked where I ended up, but you're right. I mean, I did have 8 sideboard cards and Scales towards the end against Glimpse, and I lost to it twice in a tournament and thought, okay, I'm done with Scales. But yeah, maybe some Boromirs in the main or something could have made a
That was
difference.
it was pretty surprising how few Glimpse players did well. There's only one in the top 16. I don't know how many actually played in the tournament. I
Yeah, I
actually
mean,
don't have like real
I
stats.
crushed the guy who came ninth because, that's what I built my deck to do. So presumably, if I'd been playing Red Deck Wins or something, he'd have been in the top 8. But yeah,
I mean, I'm just
didn't
counting how many Glimpse
didn't quite
players.
perform. I only think
Three.
3 or 4 people played it,
Yeah, it's weird. I
probably
was
below
at
expectations.
least three, only three.
I mean, if you look at the metagame page, it's 4% of the meta. 4% of 55 people is, whatever it is, 3 copies or whatever. So less than, right, 2 or 3 copies. So it did show up in the same amount that it shows up anywhere. And that's the wonder of Penny Dreadful, right? The highest meta share this season was 6%, and that's Blue White Control. And truly, Blue White Control could probably be subdivided into Blue White Control with Field of the Dead, Blue White Control with Coveted Falcon, and Blue White Controller with Dream Trawler. And then the Dream Trawler would be the biggest chunk of that, but it would probably drop down from 6%. So like always in PD, you have to be ready for anything. Blue White Control, Rakdos, Aristocrats, Red Deck, Winds, Boros, Glimpse, Orzhov, Blink, Field Ramp, Hardened Scales, Heartless Summoning. I mean, that's a bunch of really good decks, but that's only 34% of the formats, the 8 biggest decks. So yeah,
Yeah, it's a cool testament to the format when like Hogak makes top four when no one was looking at Hogak, or Cleric makes the finals. It's like, or even like this heroic deck wins. Like that deck was only like a week old
yep,
or something.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
know,
some people had tried Spirit Dancer and White Red to okay to maybe not even good results slightly early in the season, and we had a little discussion on the Discord about should it be Black White where you get Dark Confidant, or should it be Red White where you have to kind of go all in on a hoplite, but your auras are better, or and then chicken and a brain come up with the slightly better build, maybe. I'm not even sure how different it was of the red white and crushed, and Dat Robina picked it up and crushed, and yeah, it won the 500, 0.7% of the meta, only 40 decks in the whole season, right on the end, kind of crushing it. So yeah, pretty good advertisement for the format that you can kind of brew up the Penny Dreadful 500 winner a week before the tournament.
yeah, that's what I kind of did with 18. I only had like 2 weeks to prepare, so I was like, okay, I'm playing this. But yeah, that's cool. I mean, the season was pretty nice overall. I don't think that the glimpse hate was like warranted or anything. It was a good deck for sure, but
It's just the kind of deck that people hate to lose to, or that you feel powerless against. You have you can have like a 10% matchup into. And I think that's what people object to. It's the same as Oops, and the better these decks are, the more people hate them. But if you've got a deck that just wins on turn three if you don't interact, or turn four, people are gonna hate it. People hate High Tide, they hate Storm, they hate
people
Oops.
hate losing. I think people just hate losing, which is like
They
totally
do,
fair.
but
Like, but
given the choice, people would rather lose to Siege Rhino than Geological Appraiser. I guarantee it.
no, people hate Siege right now. I don't know. I think people just hate losing. Like
You
match
might be right.
losing, winning and losing is just a part of Magic. Someone's gonna win, someone's gonna lose, and people are gonna bring
There
like
are,
what they want to bring that they think that they could be on the winning side. So I never really hate on the deck or people's choices. It's annoying. It's like sure, it's annoying to lose, but I'll never be like, oh, why are they playing Glimpse? Like it's such a free. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like,
yeah. I mean, I think a format without combo kind of sucks, right? It's one of the cool things about Magic. But it's maybe best if combo is not the best deck, or at least isn't in a tier on its own. I think this glimpse was fine, and as you can tell from the fact that I brewed this deck that basically can't lose to it, there were plenty of tools to
that's the
make a
other
deck.
problem where it's like people don't put the work in sometimes. Where it's like you like okay, I'm gonna build this deck. I'm gonna play main deck Boromir and spell and like counter spells. I'm not gonna lose this deck. It's like sometimes
Yeah,
people just don't like put in the work. They just like, well, I want to just jam my thing. It's like you can jam your things. You just have to like figure out how to beat the best decks. So
for sure,
I don't know,
for sure.
but but yeah. Speaking of decks, I mean, we got a new season, season 34. This is crazy. This is a crazy, like I don't know, amount of like cards just coming into this.
It's a really significant rotation. It's hundreds of cards we've never seen before, some of which are extremely powerful. It's the return of some really powerful cards. So there's a lot going on. Plus, a bunch of the most played cards from this season have gone out. Role players like Dam and Novice Inspector and Deep Cavern Bat, but also kind of like bomby cards like Dark Confidant, the Discover cards for Boros Glimpse, and Champion
Champion,
of the Night
yeah.
is gone. Thalia, Guardian of Thraben is gone. So like the backbone of many of the top decks has gone. Boros Human's Listening Champion, Boros Glimpse just doesn't exist, or at least would have to be completely different.
It would be four
Uh,
color because like Charlie's Agent and Demonic Dread are still legal, so
yeah,
it's just a
yeah.
completely different deck because the
And
strength
also
of
that
the
deck so much power from Discover being an ETB trigger and not a on the stack thing. Like
yeah.
it's one whole extra permanent when you're going for it. Demonic Dread doesn't even make permanent and isn't even a hit for Glimpse, so it's definitely going to be a lot weaker. Um, we are keeping Yorion, we are keeping Lurus, we are keeping Miner and Bombardment. So the backbone of some of these top decks is in place, but like all the humans decks completely gone, Glimpse completely gone. So we'll see what comes to take the place, and then all this stuff coming in is just crazy good. The return of Kiki Jiki, it's like super significant. Um,
There's gonna be a lot of
the,
combo I think floating around very early.
return of Dark
Dark
Ritual just
Ritual,
kind of
yeah,
implies God
and
knows
Frantic
what.
Search. And Frantic
several
Surge. Yeah.
and for instance, several of these medallions, which people who are better than me at combo tell me matter. Um, you know, and just like so many like interesting cards that might play roles, Agent of Treachery, Blast Zone, Chrome Host, Seed Shot, Vendilion Click. I think like one of the most glamorous cards coming in is Bitter Blossom. I don't know how good it
I think
is,
it'll
but
be
it's extremely noticeable.
I think it'll be really good, actually. I think people are
I
gonna
think that,
realize how good it is.
yeah, I mean, we have like a lot of standard fairies. We don't have Spellstutter Sprite for sure, and we don't have Ancestral Vision that they used to play in the early iterations, or that wasn't in, once Time Spiral rotated. But you can Bitter Blossom into Scion of Una into Mistbind Click, and you can play that Sleep Cursed Fairy, which didn't exist then, but is like a pretty decent one drop that happens to be a fairy. So that's a curve, and you can play Mana Leaks and maybe others.
Yeah, Mana Leak
Lofty
is another
Denial.
Mana
If you
Leak's
play
another
enough one
returner.
drop fairies, then your Lofty Denial is like a Mana Leak plus. I don't know if it's good or not yet, but seems possible. Mendelian Click messes with combo. Mana Leak and Lofty Denial mess with combo. You can kill fairly quickly with Mistbinds and Vendilion Clicks and stuff. It's pretty exciting. If you are going to play Flash Fairies, there's a lot to be said for playing Pestamite into Kiki Jiki because that wins the game from most spots. But probably the mana isn't good enough to do both those things, so you have to choose if you're going to be slightly fairer or slightly more combo
Wait,
finish.
is Petromite a fairy?
Pestamite is a fairy rogue. It's all the
Oh,
types you would want, I think.
what if we played like Grixis Grixis
Had been
fairies?
looking at it. The problem with this, I mean, this is a beautiful idea with a big problem, which is that Kikijiki costs two red, 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 and not four red. If you could just,
There's gotta be like secluded glens that you could, or what is a secluded courtyard and like whatever
well, we
stuff
don't
like
have
that.
Cascade Bluffs, so only
Um,
Graven Cans in those colors is
I think it's
gonna.
like Thran Portal's back. You can play that. I don't know.
I mean, it's not impossible. Your weakness to price of progress will be crazy, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, to play Kikijiki on turn 5 on the regular, it requires a lot of red sources, and I don't know what red cards this deck otherwise wants to play. I mean, I don't think you can turn Improbable Alliance on, given our cantrips are all bad. So you're probably maybe just playing some Burst Lightnings or something, and that's about it. And do you even want Burst Lightning over Pepper Smoke? You probably do, but I don't know. It asks a lot, but it's a puzzle for someone to solve for sure. Could be very fun. And it's possible that Bitter Blossom just goes in not a fairies deck, right? It's also good in tokens. It's also good in kind of aggro. It's also good as a sideboard card against control, where you want to turn off their spot removal and make their wraths just so. So you just board in on the play a Bitter Blossom, and what are they even going to do? They've got to have very specific cards to get rid of it. Just gives you a kind of inevitability that you wouldn't otherwise have. Possibly Dream Trawler makes that irrelevant. I don't know. I mean, we don't really know what the control decks are going to look like, or if they're going to be able to handle the combo decks, etc. But lots of applications for Bitter Blossom. The fact that it makes fairies implies some kind of fairies, Scion of Una, Mistbind Click stuff. They're also rogues, so maybe you want to play rogues. Less rogue payoff than fairy payoff, but there's some. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm interested in Bitter Blossom, not actually for the or the fairy or rogue aspect, just because of like it makes tokens. So I think one of the first ideas I had. So Fervent Champion is back, and like there's a bunch of swords that are back. I think, or no, Light and Shadow is legal this season, but Sword of Fire and Ice is back. There's
Yeah.
also the blue white one, Truth and Justice. So I was
Mm.
thinking of maybe playing some like goofy like Mardu swords build with or like a Mardu Cobblade, or Bitter Blossom is basically the birds that keep coming, and then you just slap a
Yeah,
bunch of like
yeah.
light and
I mean, it's
shadows,
it's
and
it's
you just
great
keep.
for any kind of equipment, and
Yeah, you can play like
it's also
fighter.
great for sacrifice synergies.
Yeah,
If
there's
you've got
yeah.
something
I think it'd be
more
really good in
moderate,
Aristocrat. There's a lot of like
right?
good
If you've
decks
got
out
if you've
there.
got Miner and Bitter Blossom and Goblin Bombardment in your deck, you're an absolute nightmare for little creatures, and you can also be pretty aggro. It's a pretty good combination.
Yeah,
Lots of options.
Bitter Blossom's a crazy card. What do you think about we'll talk about another random new card. What do you think about Vesuva coming into the format?
This is
There's
really interesting, right? Like we sort of chatted about it a bit. It's not obvious whether it's better or worse than Glimmer Post,
also
right?
I also
Obviously, we
asked
haven't
this
really
because
crazy.
I'm watching someone play it. Like I'm watching. I don't know if you know this, but I'm watching like people testing season 34. The set's not out
Mhm.
yet in the beginning of this video, but I'm like watching people. People already have a great idea of what they kind of want to do. So it's like someone's playing a Cloudless with Zuzak, so I'm asking. But go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I lost to a Cloud Post Versova deck. They played the 10 mana Kozilek that draws you up to 7 against me, and even though I countered
It's a
it, of
great
course, they had only
distortion.
7 cards in
Yes.
hand and destroyed me on fairies with my conditional counter spells playing into there. And it was one match. I wouldn't want to draw too much conclusion from it. We don't have any way to search up posts, I don't think, or not any good way. But they had, I don't know how much mana, but 25 or whatever. It was pretty sad to be. I had to use a mana leak and a full power lofty denial to counter just the front side of the Kozilek, but of course they still got the card. It made my fairies look kind of silly. So yeah, I think there's a chance Vesova is better than Glimmer Post because it's more cloud posts instead of just more locuses. But of course, you don't get the life gain. You can't play it out first and then draw the other thing. And we don't have Expedition Map and we don't have Sylvan Scrying. So remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Presumably, that deck would give control deck fits, whether it can kind of assemble it often enough or do good things against aggro, or whether what even color it is like an open question. I mean, you could certainly play it with blue with the X counter spells and the Nev's Disc or something for cleanup. But and Mindslave a lot with Academy Ruins. You can play it with green, although I don't know if there's really that much pull to green compared to usual if there's no Sylvan Scrying and so on. But maybe
Um.
there is stuff,
There is.
wonky stuff, or maybe your backup plan is just normal ramp rather than posts. Just to cast your expensive things, even if you don't find posts. I don't know if there's anything else good to copy with Vesuva, but obviously Legacy tells us, and Old Extended tells us that copying a cloud post is pretty sick.
I think green is like probably the place that I would start because there's a new 3 drop like Cliff's Top Lookout. It's like it's kind of like the best Owlish Rejuvenator where you like you flip cards off top of your library until you find a land and you just put into play.
And
Unlike
you always
Rejuvenator,
hit a land, but you don't know which one. Yeah.
yeah, you always hit a land. It's basically like a better open the way on one. Um, but as far as like looking for lands, yeah, it's a tough ask. Expedition Map was like almost there. I think someone just like or something happened where it's just like it just
Mm.
dropped out. I don't know. It was going up. We were watching it, but
I mean, that card is still extremely modern playable, but
yeah,
yeah, it's only a common
it's
or whatever.
I think
So
it's
who
not
knows what
Pauper
will.
playable. I feel like it's in Pauper too, but
Maybe.
um, it's a common. It is a common, but
Mm.
yeah, it's gonna be a tough ask, which is not a bad thing. But I mean, most of the times where I had like nut draws, I just had double Cloud Post in my hand naturally in my opening hand. So
Yeah, I mean,
and you're right, Vesuva like makes those hands way better. And there's also like
right.
the Omo Vesuva Queen or King or something. I don't know. The legendary that also is just another Vesuva. So you could have like 12 posts. Like you can kind of just 12 post it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the ceiling on Vesuva Cloud Post is higher than the ceiling on Glimmer Post Cloud Post, but I don't know if that matters, right? The question is, does that matter at all? Or is it still just about, surviving aggro and assembling the thing and blah, blah, blah? Probably. I don't know. It'll be interesting to find out. And we have got payoff cards, with the exception of maybe the Ugin the Spirit Dragon, of a power level that we haven't really had before. There's a 9 mana and a 10 mana Kozilek that both look better than almost anything
There's
people have played in the
the
past.
6 drop you can the Ineffable is back, I think.
Yeah, and the
That's a good
the
one. That's
the
actually a pretty good one. The
yeah,
Ineffable. I
yeah.
liked it when I played
It's
it.
not as good as the 8 mana one, obviously,
No,
but
Spirit Dragon's like the
it's
best
good.
planeswalker we've ever had.
Yeah,
That's my
and
opinion. That's my
yeah,
opinion, but I think
yeah.
I'm
I mean,
right.
but I do think it's like really probably relevant that um, all these forbids and whatever that might be flying around are not that great against either of the Kozileks. Whereas if your kill was tooth and nail into some kind of combo kill, that would just get countered in the past. So I don't know how relevant that is, but it seems like more than nothing. So it'd be interesting to see how good posts end up being. Probably very bad against whatever ends up happening with Hermit Druid, if anything.
I don't
Hermit Druid
like
is back after a long absence, but without Dread Return, but with Narc Amoeba. So
and
I
Prize
don't know.
Amalgam, right? Oh no, it's not in. Why are people talking about Prize
Frozen
Amalgam?
Magnum was very close, but it was eliminated
Oh,
sometime
I
yesterday.
don't. I don't know what that deck could do. Like
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
mean,
Like
we
there's
have
no.
we have Balustrade Spy, we have Hermit Druid. We do not have Undercity Informer. So if you want to put your whole graveyard, a whole library into your graveyard, you can. We also have Tyvar Jubilant Brawler, which may have many applications, but one of them is certainly to return a Hermit Druid to play and have it immediately do its thing. It's possible without Dread Return that this doesn't do anything. So we'll have to see if smart people
I guess. I
come
guess
up
there's.
with a.
I guess you could play like Unburial Rights. You can do something where it's like you flip your whole library, but you keep the some like Blightsteel Colossus. Oh, Blightsteel is also legal. It's another too many crazy cards. There's so much
It is
sauce.
a crazy.
But some sort of like effect where it shuffles back to your library, and then you pay 4 mana and Unburial
Right.
Rights, and then do
Right. And
something,
you've got
and
a
then
turn, you've got your whole graveyard available, you've got some mana. It's not as good as just winning on the spot, but maybe it's good enough. It's going to be turn 4, presumably. Um, so yeah, play a land, play an unburial rights, and do the same thing as you would have done with Dread Return, but for 4 mana instead of 3 creatures. Definitely worse, but then having a 2 mana enabler, pretty exciting. There's also the possibility of like Fair Hermit Druid or Dredge Hermit Druid, where it just kind of puts 7 cards into your graveyard and you carry on.
is
I don't
Hogak
know how good that
legal
is.
again?
Hogag is legal.
Oh, that'd
Grave
be.
Troll is legal. Stinkweed is not legal. But yeah,
I
maybe
like
it's like.
fair. I like fair druid decks. Those are actually really fun.
Yeah,
They're actually
yeah.
really
I mean,
fun.
we have a lot of graveyard stuff. We have like Ripples of Undeath, which is one of the better uh, mill yourself and do a thing cards we've ever had, I think. It's from MH3, only mills 3, but you can get a card back. It's sort of like a split card of Sylvan Library and mill myself every turn. Could be sick with Sylvan Library. Um, so I'm interested to see what happens with that one. I made a list of about 60 cards that synergize with it, but I haven't really figured out even what colors that deck is yet, let alone whether it's any good or not.
Another card that's interesting is I guess it's not weird, not like interesting, but it's like the whole collective of it is Cranial Ram or like the 2-drop Ozolith, just the artifacts in general. Like Scale's got like a
Yeah,
huge upgrade, right? And
it,
Spire of
it's
Industry, the whole artifact aggro archetype got really powerful.
Yeah, yeah. Ornithopter came back. Scales stayed. Ravagers stayed. Patchwork Automaton stayed. Steel Overseer stayed, and then a bunch of stuff got added, including the 2 mana Ozolith and Cranial Ram. There might be 2 decks, might be 3 decks. We got Kappa Cannoneer, which at one point was $100 card and was being played in Legacy. So presumably we'd be at least interested in seeing if we could, get enough spam enough artifacts to improvise that out. Um, yeah, it might be more than one deck. There's like pulls in the direction of every color. There's like Kappa Cannoneer and the 3 mana Lord in blue. There's Dispatch and Tempered Steel and a really good 1-drop in white. There's the Baz with white and red activations. There's Cranial Ram, which is black red, which is basically cranial plating, which is what the deck has been missing and is Ornithopter's best friend. So, and then scales, scales are just pretty nutty in general. And then, as you say, there's 2 Rainbow Lands if you can turn them on, Glimmervoid and Spire of Industry. So that's just a huge puzzle. And I will note, I suppose, that the scales in Modern never really looked at some of these kind of more traditional affinity cards. So perhaps you don't want a ram because it's nothing to do with +1/+1 counters. Maybe you don't even want an ornithopter because it's nothing to do with +1/+1 counters. Or maybe you do. Yeah, so that's for us to figure out. But yeah, there's a lot there for sure. It keeps making me look at this funny Bloomberg card, Wear Down, which is 1 and a green sorcery, destroy target artifact or enchantment. But you can also gift a card to destroy 2. I keep calling it Force of Vigor at home, and it keeps making me wondering if you want to hit the Ravager and the other creature, or the Ram and the whatever. I don't know if that card is good enough because it's a sorcery, but
Good. I think like a two for any two for oh, it's like a two for two, I guess.
yeah, I mean, maybe all you need to do is set them back. But yeah, I mean, sometimes Ravager makes spot removal look silly. Maybe double spot removal can do enough. I don't know. Interesting to see.
I think
Another one.
scales with Cannoneer would be really just like 'cause I think you have to pick. You're right. You have to pick because you can't have it all, even with 5 color mana. Because you have to
Yeah,
be
the,
like,
the the problem is that if you want scales, you have to play a bunch of lands that play scales on turn 1. And actually, without Ornithopter, neither Glimmervoid nor Spire of Industry cast scales on turn 1 because you need to put an artifact into play either to make it work or to make it not immediately die. So, so yeah, I mean, we have got the best mana bases we have ever had. All 10 creature lands, all 10 check lands, somewhere between 8 and 10, depending on how you count it. Pain lands, Thran Portal, like it's crazy good, but I don't know that you want to be doing Dispatch, Kappa Cannoneer, Cranial Ram Scales. That's,
also Zabaz is back too, which is also like
yeah.
kind of insane for the deck.
Yeah,
No,
I mean, I think you will be playing these 5 color lands because you'll want them for Zabaz activations after turn 1. But if you are going to play Scales, you got to find, 13, 14 untapped green sources to go with your rainbow lands for turn 2 onwards. So it's a puzzle.
I think I like blue green, maybe and just have white mana just for dispatch. I think dispatch is gonna be such a good cyber card with his decks.
Yeah, I mean,
Because you need like something for like Kiki Jiki and stuff like that.
yeah,
And
it depends a lot on how much the decks that can like combo kill you depend upon a creature, I suppose. And you're right. If Kiki
yeah,
Jiki is like the best deck, then you're going to be loving your 1 mana answer to that whole situation, untap, win the game. And if it's if Tendrils of Agony is the thing, then you're going to be boarding in Canonists and whatever, and forget Dispatch. Although maybe they'll use cost reducers, and you'll still want Dispatch. We'll see. We'll see.
I don't know. So like Sapphire Medallions now legal. We talked about the medallions earlier. And I think Storm, like you talked about Tendrils is back. Dark Ritual is back. Mind Desire is back too. Frantic Search is back. You have all the pieces to do something really cool, except for the fact there's no ponder, there's no opt, there's no even like sleight of
Right.
hand.
You
There's
just
not
kind of
all that setup cards early. But and I have played Storm with 2 mana spells. Like I have played with like nagging thoughts and anticipate and shimmer a possibility, which I will do. I will try this, but
yeah,
like it's gonna be tough. I think it's gonna be really like you're gonna have to lean on a medallion pretty hard. Like there's no
yeah,
abrade in the format, so that's really good. But I think with like people hating on, let's say the scales deck is really good or the affinity decks in general. Like people are just gonna be hating on artifacts. So it's like storm decks are gonna just have like weird residual hate towards it. Or like maybe main deck, like you're talking about like wear downs or like whatever. So I think Storm's gonna have a hard time to start, but honestly, like everything's kind of there except for the cantrips, and I think that's the easiest thing to give up. Where if you have mana and you have like, I guess you just need mana and payoff, really. So, and
yeah.
that's
I mean,
that's two
Storm
cards that we have.
Storm for sure has some absolutely brutal sevens that win the game on turn 3. Just at a canter. You know, Probably win the game on turn 3 and end up with 7 cards in hand. um, Absolutely. And but if you're just going to play a tap land or pass the turn doing nothing on turn 1 instead of ponder trying to set up that beautiful 7 for turn 3, turn 4, is your deck any good? I mean, possibly still great, right? Possibly. But I think it's an open question. Like any deck list that starts with Mind's Desire, Dark Ritual, Frantic Search, Tendrils of Agony scares you and can, have these great turns. And if if the medallions end up being good, then the medallion too, but obviously our very best storm decks in the past mostly played Ponder and even other good ones as well.
No probe
With
either. There's also no probe.
no probe, no cruise.
Yeah.
So both of those cards were incredible. But Dark Ritual Mind's Design and Frantic Search is a pretty sick starting point. So somebody, and the other thing is this Reenact the Crime. Strange card. One blue, 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 which is kind of like got the, oh, I've got perfect hand, but I can't find blue, blue for Mind's Desire problem in spades. Although we do have Sunken Ruins, which helps a lot with that. If you're dark ritualing up to a lot of black mana, your Sunken Ruins can turn it into blue to cast Reenact the Crime or Mind's Desire. Um, but yeah, people, I mean, if you do Frantic Search away Mind's Desire and then reenact the crime it back, well, that
It might
already
be
sounds good, even if you didn't do anything else.
it might be good as like a one of. I don't love the card. One, it's triple blue, which is very hard.
Trouble
It's not
Blue is
it's not good for your
extremely.
like it's not good for your Sapphire Medallion deck. Two, the setup is like you think it's like easy. Oh yeah, just discard it. Then you have to discard the card at the point. So that's not always like it's a weird like run around. I don't know. It could be. I think the best like I've played cards like Sins of the Past before, where it's like the best setup is when you're hitting it off of Mind's Desire. So it might be
Mm,
good as like a one or two of because like if you hit the reenact on the Mind's Desire, then you're just gonna go again, which is awesome. Like that's always
mm,
what you want.
mm,
But
mm, mm.
so I don't know. It could be okay. It's worth testing, but I'm not like super high in it. But then again, like the deck does need like that because you're not gonna have like you said. There's not gonna be no cruise or the best like card drawing is probably like Charter Course or something.
Yeah, I mean,
like
would you even play Dig in Storm, right? It's a very different card to Cruise. Quite often, a control deck or a aggro control deck doesn't care too much about the difference between those things. But in Storm, finding two blue mana on a big turn might be a lot more to ask than finding one blue and getting an influx of cards.
yeah,
It's interesting.
they could be okay. I don't know. Never really.
I
You're
feel
right.
like Dig in Storm implies going to a turn that I don't really want to be going to. I want to be a turn 3.5 combo deck with, some repeals for the hate pieces and some defense grids for the counter spells post board. And if I'm like a faffing around Shimmer of Possibility, dig on turn 5, win on turn 6 deck, I'm probably just bad, right? Probably just lose to red deck wins. But who knows? Maybe it's easier to find blue mana on a big turn than I think it is, and it's just, find exactly what you need win. That's another one that I'm interested to see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it. It might be my first deck I try. What is the first deck you think you'll try? I've
I,
already
you
built
know,
a couple of decks, but I haven't
Yeah,
built
so I
anything.
built I built 3 decks, and I have like a couple of other lists that I haven't built. The one that I like the most is as is usual with my approach. I'm obsessed with one drops, especially one drops that can win the game on their own. And I really like to use turn one to do something good. Really struggle to do that this season actually. But I have a deck that, well, I have a card in particular. The black rogue that has flash that becomes a 3/2 death touch if there's 8 cards in your opponent's
Oh,
graveyard.
Thieves Guild
Building or
Enforcer or
Thief
something
Guild
like that.
Enforcer, yeah.
Yeah.
So notable rogues to turn it on are Better Blossom makes fairy rogues. Great, let's get that in there. Forsaken Miner is a rogue. Okay, let's also add red. Let's also add Goblin Bombardment. Goblin Bombardment loves Bitter Blossom. Goblin Bombardment loves Forsaken Miner. Okay, some synergies happening here. Uh, and okay, let's look at red black rogues. Well, we have a new rogue, Robber of the Rich, who is, a hasty 2/2 for 2, great in our, Forsaken Miner 3/2 Death Touch Beatdown deck. Triggers the Enforcer, and then might just draw you some cards, which is a pretty good thing for your 2 mana 2/2 haste to do, which you're kind of already interested in because of its creature type and just because it's a 2/2 haste for 2. So that's the core of my stew. And then, this deck can sideboard or even main deck Price of Progress because it's the aggro a lot of the time, if not all of the time. It can play Chain Lightning, it can play Burst Lightning, it can even play Incinerate if it wants. And now it's, Rakdos aggro, but with the minor combo with a 3/2 for one, and Wild and Cattle, but with Death Touch. Great. And add on to that, completely not a rogue, but just too good to leave out, Knight of the Ebon Legion. And now you've got another really high quality one drop. So yeah, there's my 12 one drops. All black, so the mana's not too horrendous. Don't need red until turn two, unless we somehow need to, chain lightning on turn one, which seems unlikely. So yeah, it's pretty good. I've got sideboard, Ego Drain, Duress, and the Prowl guy that exiles 3 cards from your library, and if you hit them with a rogue, Earwig squad. So definitely afraid of actual combo. Making a 2/2 and a 3/2 and a 2/2 haste and drawing 1 card off their library is all very good. But if they're going to kill you on turn three, you need to have a plan for that. But I have played combo already in some test games and done fine with all these mini sideboard cards. And Price of Progress does beat Oops All Lands this season, unlike season 33, because Prav Spires of Order is no longer legal. So unless they find a solution to
What a
that,
loss.
yeah. Unless they find a solution to that, red decks are actually probably favored against Oops All Lands, despite the silliness, because you can literally mulligan to Price of Progress and 2 lands and then just win. So that's an interesting change. So that's my little Rakdos rogues. I mean, Rakdos isn't even the natural color of rogues, so maybe it's nonsense. But and also obviously it could turn out that there are enough decks with graveyard synergies that milling your opponent is terrible. And if that is the case, then probably my Wild and Cattle with Death Touch is actually just a lose the game card, and it's probably not good. But that's where I'm at with that. I've also been messing around with mono green, just using Fanatic of Ronus and Rofalos, and even Chancellor of the Tangle to kind of make a 3 mana 4 power creature as quickly as possible, and then do stupid stuff. But the stupid stuff hasn't proven to be that stupid so far, and of course, any kind of mopey sorcery speed makes some 4/4s kind of deck is a little vulnerable to combo. So I don't know how far I'm going to go with that unless I, find more fun things to do with all this mana that I'm making. Phonetic Arona is definitely an interesting card though. So we will see about that one. What else? I mean, I've been looking at Ripples Undeath, but my thoughts on that are just so confused as to not really constitute a deck at this time. I'll also have just made fairies with Fairy Dream Thief and Sleep Curse Fairy on turn one to turn on Lofty Denial, Mana Leak, Bitter Blossom, and maybe Obira turn two, Sign of Ina, Vendilion Click turn three, Mistbound Click turn four, and then a little bit of removal, some sideboard cards, some sideboard swords, some sideboard spell pierces, some sideboard ego drains. Now, ego drain better than Thoughtseize if you have a fairy in play. So, the old standard fairies used to sideboard its Thoughtseizes. Maybe, maybe this card is good. So yeah, those are my three fairies. I'm really not sure about at all, but the rogue seems pretty good.
Yeah, I think I'm. Those are all good. Those are all really good. Cool. I think I want to play Storm first with the Sapphire Medallion. Just try, just
Hmm.
because I haven't missed it. I really am interested in Bitter Blossom as well. I think it's gonna be like a one of those like staple cards, like the anchors of the season where everyone tries it and everyone's gonna figure it out. I really like the sword angle because the one of the, obviously you lose life as you have it, so like I want to play like Sword Light and Shadow. And I loved like Fervent Champion Sword Light Shadow. That was like a really great grindy element. And you can like do like pseudo aristocratic things and things like that.
Are you going to play in your Mardu newcomer Nahiri the Harbinger?
You could do that.
They
I don't
played
know.
that card in Mardu
Yeah.
Pyromancer. It was
Well,
pretty good.
I'm only splashing white for fighter class so I can find swords
Hmm.
because that gets like really tough. I could play like a fun of. I don't know if I
Yeah,
would
and
want to play Blightsteel with it too, though. But I want to play Blightsteel in my deck then. I'm
right,
like,
yeah, that's the thing. What does Nahiri get? Now in that Mario Pyromancer deck, she just got
she just killed
did she
things.
did she
She
get this or
looted.
did she just
No,
get
what
Bedlam
I
Reveler?
when I used it, I just looted. I just looted constantly, and like yeah, it
Right.
helps with the Bedlam Reveler stuff. But I never minus. I don't think I ever minus stayed ever.
Mm-hmm.
You just like
So yeah,
you
so
play
there's
it
sort of fair Nahiri, and then there's Nahiri with an
right.
eye to getting Blightsteel.
Basically,
Two different things.
You played it. You killed something. Then you looted, and then you killed something. Then you looted. You just kept doing that.
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
like you're discarding like faithless looting with value. You know what I mean? Things like that. So you're just looking for like a Bedlam Reveler. You drew 3 cards, and you just kept doing things. But so that's 2, 3. I don't know. I know the third deck. I guess the post deck. I would try it. Like Fazuva post. It just sounds good. I don't know. Like I think there's enough payoff. There's probably some like goofy like Mind Saver Loop all fine, but getting there like that's the same problem with like I think like each of the decks is like getting to the point where I want to be is gonna be the hard part because
We
the
do have the +3 -3 removal spell for posts, which is pretty big. We do have Matter Reshaper if you're in the market for just blocking
oh it's not even
without
that it's
getting
like
in.
it's finding the post.
Oh,
That's the
I
hard
see. Yeah,
part.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
like I think killing things is like pretty simple, but
Yeah,
finding
I'm gonna try it with Mono Blue because I feel like Mono Blue is in less of a hurry to assemble posts. Can just play a kind of okay control game until such time as posts come along. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
oh, Sanctum Mugen's legal too now. You could copy Vesuva Sanctum or get
Yeah,
multiple
yeah. I
things. That'd
mean,
be kind of
once you
cool.
get up to the big manas and you can Kozilek or whatever, it's gonna be a good time. But yeah, finding the posts, surviving to that point,
Oh
that's the
yeah,
challenge.
you could Sanctum. Oh, you could Sanctum for Kozilek and stuff like that, or Blightsteel or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
You could just play Blightsteel in these decks. That's pretty good. It's a colorless creature.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you want the cast triggers off these Kozileks more than you want Blightsteel, but either way.
well, Blightsteel just could just win the game.
Yeah, yeah,
That's where
yeah.
I'm at.
I mean,
Um,
drawing up to 7 and making a massive guy and being able to counter things by discarding cards is also takes you a pretty long way towards winning the game.
right.
But we'll
There could be
see.
like a just a colorless post list that could be cool, but you really want that Omo card, I think. Well, Omo is blue,
Mhm.
right? Omo
It's
is.
blue-green hybrid, is it?
Oh yeah, it is.
Isn't
So you can do
it?
both.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, I don't know.
it's a one.
My version
Oh.
is going to be mono blue control that just sometimes has 20 mana with like Mindslaver lock and like one or two Kozileks or something. But you could definitely take very different approaches.
Mhm. All right.
It's
One
not.
more.
It's notable. Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's notable that we kept both of the really busted companions in Yorion and Lurus, although there are some cards that kind of push against it. So rather like people prefer to play Judith and Lurus and Rakdos, we now have Adeline for White Weenie or anything, Boros aggro or whatever, maybe worth foregoing Lurus for. I'm a Lurus believer, but I know other people are not. And Adeline is very good. What a great curve topper in aggro.
All right. One more new card that you want to talk about. We'll do one each, and then
Well, I want to talk about Primal Prayers, which is
okay.
the new Alarin. It's pretty interesting. I don't know if it can actually be good. I mean,
It needs energy, right?
or yeah, well, we have Rubble Belt Rampager or whatever it's called, the elephant that makes
Greenbelt
a guarantee.
Rampager. Yeah.
Yeah, green belt. So if you have the elephant in your hand and primal prayers in play and the right amount of energy, you can then play any three or less drops from your hand. All of them, and you can flicker. Actually, no, that may not be true, but you can certainly flicker the rampager in and out. Right? So if you have something that cares about a creature just entering and leaving again and again and again, then it's a kill. So if you play, a mana dork on 1, you can or 2, and then you can probably kill on turn 3, you know, with like a 3-card combo, but some of the pieces are redundant. Obviously, you have to have some kind of fair plan because you're only playing 4 primal prayers. You're probably not tutoring it, although maybe commune with the gods or squirrel grab would help you. I
Cash
don't know.
grab.
Cash grab. There you go. It involves squirrels in some way. So I think.
What is
Very interesting to see if that can be made good. Although I guess it's crazy to talk about Primal Prayers and not talk about Eureka, so I probably picked the wrong new/returning card to to talk about, because Eureka is also 4 mana win the game, but there's a whole different set of things that you'd need in hand.
well, Yuriko was legal
Um,
before at some point, so we don't have to count that. Talking about a
yeah.
brand new. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's a Eureka hypergenesis thing, which could be okay. I don't know, but
I mean,
that's been
it's like Glimpse, isn't it? In that on turn 3 or turn 4, if you're not prepared and you haven't done anything about it, then you're going to die to it.
it's true. Man, Eureka is I don't know. The difference it's just so funny that like Eureka decks really haven't been played, but Hypergenesis is played a lot, right? Is that weird?
Well, Eureka's on it was only in one season, right? And its
Really?
backup plan was like Dubious Challenge or something.
I don't,
So backup
what
Hypergenesis is way better than backup Dubious Challenge,
It's season
presumably.
17? Oh. What was the best finish here? It won a tournament. Oh, yeah, it was that dubious challenge deck. That was weird.
Yeah, I mean that deck was so weird that people were saying Dubious Challenge was better than Eureka in it. So so I don't know if it's necessarily the high watermark of what Eureka is capable of. And I think, we have Beseiju who shelters all to make it uncounterable. And presumably there are many hands, rather like with Hypergenesis, that just win the game on the spot, don't even use the combat step, etc. If you don't play Hypergenesis, you can play Mana Dorks and do it sooner than turn 4. If you do play Hypergenesis, you can either Shardless on 3 or Eureka on 4, win the game. So that's a deck that,
It
even
made
without clever tweaks and sideboard
me.
cards and whatever it might be, already presents a very serious question for non-mana leak decks, right?
Yeah. I think, wow. How do we get from Primal Purse to Eureka in that sense? I don't know. I mean,
Well,
Primal Purse could
four-mana
be
green
good.
cards that could win the
Yeah.
game if they resolve.
Primal Purse could be pretty good. I don't know. I just can't. I guess this is where our Scryfall really comes in handy because I can't see the kill like instantly. Obviously, you said with Green Belt, like you're just like gaining. You're
So yeah,
gaining the
if you have there's a red 3-drop which can be played off Primal Press, that says every time a creature comes into play, do 1 damage to it.
oh the
Opposite.
valet, devilish valet, or something
Yeah.
like that.
Devilish Valet power gets bigger, and it also gets
Oh,
trample, so it gets infinitely large and trampled. So there's 2 kills, one of which uses the combat step and one of which doesn't. Um, so yeah, obviously Rampager is crucial, Primal Prayers is crucial. You have to have a game plan for the games where you're missing one of those. Fauna Shaman is back, I believe, so maybe that helps a little bit with Rampager. Um, and maybe, if you're trying to kill on turn 4 or turn 5, you're just not even fast enough. Anyway, so a lot of questions for that deck, but it's really interesting to me. I mean, Alaron is a super fun legacy deck. Obviously, that's playing Cavern Harpy and can play Force of Will and blah blah blah. But interesting to see what we make of it.
hmm. Let's see. I think my card to pick is this is probably because I used to play a lot of Rock and Modern as Grim Player. I think Grim Player
Grimfire is
could be
pretty great.
it could be really good. I don't know. Delirium part's the hard part, but just like I don't know, just like warms my like Assassin's Trophy is also legal, which I didn't realize that till like a day ago. I was like, this is
Mm.
great.
I
Like
just keep looking at
there's
Traverse
another
the
reason to not
Overworld,
play Post with the
Grimfire.
Assassin's Trophy. Twilight Mire is legal to new land. It's like
I
you could
just keep looking at Traverse the Overworld, Grimflare, Unholy Heat, and I'm like,
or you talked about Ripples
there's
of Aneth,
something here.
the enchantment
Ripples
Ripples.
on Disc
This
is
is the
great.
Ripples deck. This is Grim Flare
Also, do
is
you
the
know
Ripple.
what card gives you Delirium like no other? Bitter Blossom. Mill Bitter Blossom.
Yes,
Two
yes,
super weird types in your
and
graveyard.
and and you can play the swords, all the swords for no reason. Like why not? Like
Yeah.
oh, this deck,
All
it
you
can be
gotta
a
do
real good deck. That's
is figure
that's
out how you don't die to unfair decks. Are you gonna
you're black. You
sort of
play
ego
Duress.
drain and hope you've got a fairy rogue
You got
around? Are you gonna
Duress
sideboard
is
something?
back. Duress is back. It's fine. Um, No, the Rock is just kind of like you just have answers to all sorts of things, and you just the real question is winning the game. How do you win the game?
You've got a
And
4/4 trampler and some swords. You're gonna be
right,
fine.
yeah, and a bunch of bird or fairy rogues or whatever. I think it'd be
Right,
a really
right.
good deck.
I mean, it's very exciting to me. My question is, are you going to have a bunch of hopeless matchups or matchups that you can only possibly win post board? And
Also,
if so, could you then maybe you can traverse for like the exact killer bullets, and I don't know, you've had time to mess around with all that, but it could be fun.
Also, a card that probably was just like released like maybe like a couple hours ago, but Fire Extinguisher. We can play Obliterator Rock. Come on, let's do it.
Can play what?
Just
Oh, Phyrexian Obliterator.
yes,
I mean, we have got, I think, all the filters, or nine,
yeah.
like 8 or 9 filters, or something. So,
And
and
Ritual, Dark Ritual, just
and the
Ritual
black
that
filters. But I don't know how you play Phyrexian Obliterator outside of mono black with a dark ritual, right? Like it's
that's
the
gonna
only
be.
way.
I think that might be a real like just mono black mid range people just kind of like drool over this Obliterator card.
Play some removal, play some card draw, play some, play a Phyrexian Obliterator on turn 2. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, do we have Gary? Probably not.
Do we?
Could be a really mid-rangey and play, 5 drop.
No.
We don't have it. Okay,
What
fair
devotion
enough.
pay? We don't have devotion pay. We have red devotion. We have Purpros is legal. The old school
Purpose
Purpros. Wow.
is legal. Here to ruin
That's
any
that could
opening.
go. That could go in the Primal Prayers deck, right?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a 4 drop,
Still a
but
lot of mana, but maybe.
it's got a lot of 4 drops. Wow, this season's gonna be great. I think it's gonna be a really good season.
Oh, there's
Hopefully,
so many things that we've never had to try. There are several like mega powerful returning cards, and a bunch of stuff that was good last season is gone. So I mean, it's everything you would want from a rotation, really. Everything from Detective Phoenix to Corvold, Fey Cursed King. I'm even going to try Loot the Key to Everything, which is a 1/2 that like draws about 3 cards a turn if it lives. 1/2 for Tima.
this is gonna be
You
great.
can Party Thrasher, you can PNLR Consular Revival, you can Ranger Class, you can Volatile Stormdrake, and then Saving Grasp it back to your hand and just like permanently steal all of your opponents, at least all of their small creatures. Pretty crazy. Gaddock
Yep.
T. I don't know if Gaddock
Yeah,
T was anything in Penny. I mean, it used to be a cryptic command hoser, which was fun, but perhaps
it
nobody
probably
plays 4 cost
probably does
spells.
some nonsense stuff. There's probably like there's a lot of just stuff. It's funny. It's a lot of stuff that just could happen, and probably the best deck is still probably aristocrat, red black aristocrats, or some sort of red deck with rights of progress to punish
Yeah,
everyone's
yeah.
like
You're
stupid
loading up
ruse.
on meddling mages or whatever to deal with these crazy
Yeah,
combo decks, and they're just like playing Forsaken Miner into bombardment and making you look silly. We will see.
I was really looking at wizards for some reason. I don't remember why, but oh, because Vanilla Click's a wizard, so I would
Oh
like
yeah.
the I would like them to ban and the Vanilla Click. That'd be pretty sick.
I mean, Vidilian Click, great card. I mean, Joe Lisette played it for so many years in Legacy. Obviously, he had Caracas, which made it kind of nuts. But maybe we have Riptide Lab. Is it a wizard?
Yeah, it's a wizard. It's a fairy wizard. Is
Maybe
it
you
Riptide?
can very badly recreate the Joe Lisette end game of his weird miracles. But yeah,
I'm down.
Click in general, 3 power flash flyer, also interacts with opponent's plan if they're, on combo or whatever. What more could you ask for, really? I mean, I played a lot of Nimble Obstructionist this season, and I look forward to ditching it in favor of Vendilion Click, if at all possible, mana-wise, in every blue deck I play this season.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited. This should be
We
fun.
also did not talk about Rotting Regisaur, which has got to be one of the funniest things to Dark Ritual out. I don't know if it's good or not, but who needs a hand if you're attacking for 7 starting on turn 2? That's what I say.
I mean, you only need like what? Okay, so if your hand is 2 swamps, 2 dark rituals, the Regisaur, and the Obliterator, I mean, that's all you need, right?
Doing it.
Yeah.
Doing it.
Wait, what is it? How many cards is that? 2 swamps, 2 rituals. Yeah, then you just
If
discard the
you play
first
enough
card.
prompts, then every
Discard.
card you have is great with Dark Ritual, and you
Yeah,
can just log into Dark Ritual.
right. That's gonna be. That's
Or
gonna
you can just spam out 2 Forsaken Miners and a Knight of the Ebon Legion. I mean, what does anybody do about that?
nothing. There's nothing you can
Fair
do.
Dark Ritual is here.
Man, there's gonna be a lot of like dark rituals gonna be so annoying. I think What do you think the most annoying card is gonna be? I think it's gonna be Dark Ritual. Now that we're talking about it, I think Dark Ritual, like every time that card shows up, something unfair happens.
Yeah,
So I
if
think
something
like
is so busted that
yeah.
people are upset about it, it's going to be either Hermit Druid or Dark Ritual, probably Dark Ritual. And yeah, if not, I'm going to spam Dark Ritual anyway in fairer decks, and it'll still be good.
No, I don't think there's gonna be like a Hermitage. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I don't see it currently. Unless it's like they play the slow route with like Unburial Rights. Which you could do, like you can Unburial Rights. I think that the zombie kill is probably still all legal, so you can just Angel and do that. But then you give your opponent a turn to like kill you,
I
unless
mean,
you can
the
do it
only thing I
all.
would say about Hermit Druid is if it does do something, then the addition of Tyvar to both get it back and make it tap immediately has to be relevant. But yes, possibly without Dread Return, it is no good and it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
I dodged a bullet there. We dodged a lot of bullets. No Dread Return, no High Tide. Um, I don't know what else, like other bullets we dodged. We did
Yeah,
lose a lot of like good stuff though. No champion. I
yeah,
think champion's another bullet dodge. I think like double champion draws were like so annoying. They could
yeah,
be like so. I was
absolutely.
on both sides of it. It's like this is awesome. Or like this is terrible.
Yeah, champion or no champion makes a lot of difference in those decks. Presumably, you're not even in the market for Thalia's Lieutenant anymore. If you do play White Weenie, it's just some kind of White Weenie. But we'll see.
Yeah, we will see, and that's gonna wrap up this. But yeah, thanks for chatting. I will see you. I'll see you in season 34.
I'll see you then.